The air was thick with the scent of lilacs and grilled burgers as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over my cousin's backyard graduation party. Laughter and chatter filled the space, a celebration of milestones and family ties. I was 26, standing on the cusp of what I thought was a stable life, my hand intertwined with Daniel as my boyfriend of 4 years as we navigated the crowd. He was tall, with sandy hair that caught the light and a smile that had once convivied said me I was safe. I wore a sundress, light blue and hopeful, my dark hair swept over one shoulder. It was supposed to be a perfect night. Daniel excused himself to grab us drinks, and I wandered toward the patio, my heart light with the thought of surprising him with a kiss when he returned. That's when I heard my mother's voice, sharp and unmistakable, cutting through the hum of the party like a blade through silk. I froze behind the rose trellis, hidden from view, as her words spilled out into the dusk. She's not enough for you, Daniel. You need someone stronger, someone who can stand on their own. Not Laura. She's always been the fragile one. The world tilted. My mother Eleanor Grayson stood there in her crisp white blouse and tailored slacks, her graying hair pulled into a tight bun, her posture radiating the authority I'd always admired. Beside her was Daniel, clutching 2 plastic cups, his face unreadable. I waited for him to laugh, to brush it off, to defend me. But he didn't. He just stood there, silent, his hesitation louder than any words could have been. Laura's sweet, but she leans too much, my mother continued, her tone casual, as if she were discussing the weather. You're going places, Daniel. You need a partner who can keep up, not hold you back. I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened, a cold numbness creeping into my limbs. This wasn't just a casual critique, it was a betrayal. A dismantling of everything I'd believed about my family, about love. I'd spent years idolizing my mother, her strength, her unwavering resolve. She'd raised me and my older sister, Claire, alone after my father left when I was 6, building a life out of sheer will. And Daniel had been my anchor, the one I trusted with my dreams, my fears, my heart. Now they were tearing me apart together. I stumbled back, my sandals catching on the grass, and fled to the edge of the yard, hiding behind a willow tree. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall, not yet. I replayed her words, each one a splinter embedding itself deeper. Fragile. Not enough. Leans too much. Was that really how they saw me? How long had they felt this way? When Daniel found me later, his expression was guarded, the drink still in his hands. Hey, you okay? He asked, his voice soft but uncertain. I searched his hazel eyes for the man I thought I knew. Did you hear what she said? My voice trembled, barely above a whisper. He shifted, glancing away. Laura, it's just your mom being protective. She doesn't mean it like that. Protective. I laughed, a bitter edge to it. She said I'm not good enough for you. And you didn't say a word. I didn't know what to say, he admitted, running a hand through his hair. It caught me off guard. That's not enough, Daniel. I stepped back, the distance between us growing wider than the few feet of grass. You should have stood up for me. He didn't argue. He didn't chase me when I turned and walked away, the party fading into a blur of noise and color behind me. That night I lay awake in my childhood bedroom, the floral wallpaper a mocking reminder of simpler times. My mother's words echoed, relentless, slicing through every memory of her hugs, her encouragement, her pride. Had it all been a lie? The next morning I avoided her, slipping out before breakfast. But the cracks had already begun to show. Over the following weeks I noticed things I'd been blind to before. Daniel started mentioning Claire in every conversation, her promotion at the marketing firm, her new gym routine, how she'd really turned her life around. Each comment was a quiet jab, a comparison I hadn't seen coming. I told myself it was nothing, that I was overreacting, but the doubt festered. Then came the day it all shattered. I'd gone to Daniel's apartment unannounced, a rare impulsive move. Carrying a bag of his favorite takeout taqueria surprised him after a long week. The door was unlocked, and I stepped inside, calling his name. No answer. I moved toward the bedroom, the food still warm in my hands, and stopped dead. There they were, Daniel and Claire tangled in his sheets, their laughter dying as they saw me. My sister's blonde hair spilled over the pillow, her blue eyes wide with shock but not shame. Daniel scrambled to sit up, stammering my name, but I couldn't hear him over the roar in my ears. The takeout slipped from my hands, hitting the floor with a dull thud, sauce seeping into the carpet. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just turned and walked out, the image searing itself into my mind, me sister and my boyfriend, together, as if I'd never existed. The rage boiled, a silent inferno, but I kept moving, my steps mechanical, my heart a hollow drum. I drove to my mother's house, the one place I thought I could find answers. She was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, her apron pristine. I stood in the doorway, trembling. "Did you know?" I asked, my voice raw. She didn't look up. "Know what, Laura?" "About Claire and Daniel." Her knife paused, then resumed its steady rhythm. "I suspected," she said, calm as ever. "Claire told me they'd been spending time together. She's strong, Laura. She's got direction. I told her she deserved someone like him." The room spun. "And me? What do I deserve?" She finally met my eyes, and there was no warmth there, only a cold pragmatism. "You're not like Claire. You've always needed help, always needed someone to guide you. Daniel's better off with her." I wanted to scream, to hurl every insult I could muster, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I felt something shift, a quiet, burning resolve. "You're wrong," I whispered. "I don't need you. I don't need any of you." I left without another word, the door slamming behind me. That night I packed a single suitcase, grabbed my keys and drove. No plan, no destination, just away. The highway stretched endlessly before me, the hum of the engine drowning out the chaos in my head. I didn't stop until the skyline of Philadelphia loomed into view, its lights a beacon in the dark. It wasn't Chicago like I'd imagined in some fleeting fantasy, but it felt right, gritty, alive, a city that didn't care about my past. I found a cheap motel off the interstate, its neon sign flickering vacancy. The room smelled of stale smoke and bleach, the bed sagging under a faded quilt, but it was mine. For the first time in years I was alone, not leaning, not fragile, just me. I stared at the ceiling, my mother's voice still whispering in my skull, but I pushed it down. This was my chance to start over, to prove her wrong, not for her sake, but for mine. The next morning, I scoured the city with a desperation I hadn't felt before. I had du la 800 in SAVOYNGS, a beat-up Honda, and a handful of clothes. No degree, no connections, just 3 years as a receptionist at a law firm back home. I applied everywhere. Diners, retail stores, temp agencies. Rejection after rejection piled up, but I kept going, fueled by a quiet fire I didn't know I had. 2 weeks later, I landed a job at a rundown diner called Rosie's, washing dishes for $9 an hour. The kitchen was a chaos of clanging pots and shouted orders, the air thick with grease and sweat. My hands blistered from the scalding water, my back ached from hours on my feet, but I didn't complain. Each paycheck was a brick in the wall I was building around myself, a shield against the past. I rented a room in a boarding house in Fishtown, a narrow row home with peeling paint and creaky floors. My housemates were a mix of drifters and dreamers, a tattooed bartender named Jess, a med student named Ravy, and an older woman named At who chain-smoked on the porch. They didn't ask questions and I didn't offer answers. It wasn't home, but it was enough. Days turned into weeks, then months. I traded dishwashing for waitressing at Rosie's, memorizing orders and forcing smiles for tips. I learned to navigate the city's rhythm, the rumble of the L train, the bustle of South Street, the quiet of the Schuylkill River at dawn. Slowly, the numbness faded, replaced by a fragile sense of possibility. I wasn't thriving, but I was surviving, and that was a victory my mother couldn't take away. One rainy afternoon, a man walked into Rosie's and sat by the window. He was in his late 40s, dressed in a charcoal suit that looked out of place among the diner's cracked VYNYL booths. His hair was salt and pepper, his eyes sharp but kind. He ordered a black coffee and watched the rain streak the glass, his fingers tapping idly on the table. I refilled his cup and he glanced up. "You been here long?" he asked, his voice low and steady. "Few months," I said, wiping my hands on my apron. "Just passing through?" He smiled faintly. "Something like that. I'm Henry. I run a small logistics company downtown. You ever think about doing something else?" I hesitated, caught off guard. "I don't know. I'm just trying to get by. He nodded like he understood more than I'd said. Sometimes getting by is the first step to something bigger. If you're ever looking, I could use someone with a good head on their shoulders. No experience needed, just grit. He slid a business card across the table. Think about it. I took the card, the weight of it unfamiliar in my hand. Henry Carter, Carter Logistics. I didn't call right away. I wasn't ready to trust again, not after everything. But the idea lingered, a spark in the gray monotony of my days. A week later I dialed the number, my palms sweaty. Henry answered on the second ring. Laura, right? Glad you called. Come by tomorrow 10 a.m. We'll talk. The office was a modest brick building near the waterfront, cluttered with files and the hum of ringing phones. Henry greeted me with a firm handshake and a cup of coffee, then sat me down across from his cluttered desk. I need an assistant, he said bluntly. Someone to handle schedules, track shipments, keep me from losing my mind. It's not glamorous, but it pays better than the diner. You in? I didn't have a resume, just a shaky nod and a determination I hadn't named yet. Yeah, I'm in. That job became my lifeline. Henry was gruff but fair, teaching me the ropes with a patience I didn't expect. I learned to manage spreadsheets, negotiate with vendors, anticipate his needs before he voiced them. The work was demanding, but it gave me purpose, a tether to something solid. I started saving, dreaming of a place that wasn't a shared row home, of a life I could call my own. 6 months in, Henry called me into his office. You're good at this, Laura. Better than good. Ever think about moving up? Up. I echoed, unsure. Project coordinator. More responsibility, more pay. You'd be overseeing deliveries, coordinating with clients. I think you can handle it. I stared at him, the weight of his belief pressing against my doubt. My mother's voice crept in, fragile. Not enough, but I shoved it aside. I'd like that, I said, my voice steady. The promotion changed everything. I moved into a tiny studio apartment in Old City, its exposed brick walls and single window a far cry from the boarding house. I bought a second-hand couch, a cheap rug, and a coffee maker that hissed like a dragon. It wasn't much, but it was mine. At work, I threw myself into the role, learning to juggle deadlines and troubleshoot crises. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was building. Then I met Sam. It was at a client meeting, a warehouse expansion project Henry had me spearhead. Sam was the architect, a wiry man in his 30s with dark curls and a quiet intensity. He wore a flannel shirt rolled to the elbows, his blueprints spread across the table like a map to some hidden world. We clicked instantly, trading ideas over coffee that stretched into hours. He had a dry humor and a way of listening that made me feel seen, not judged, not compared, just heard. Our first real conversation happened late one night at the office, the city lights glinting through the window. You're not like most people I meet, he said, leaning back in his chair. You've got this fire. Like you've been through hell and came out swinging. I laughed, surprised. You don't know the half of it. Tell me, he said simply, and I did. Not all of it, just pieces, the betrayal, the move, the fight to start over. He didn't pity me, didn't offer empty platitudes. He just nodded like he'd mapped the same rough terrain. Sam became my confidant, then my friend, then something more. Our first date was a walk along the Delaware River, the air crisp with autumn. He kissed me under a street lamp, soft and unhurried, and for the first time in years I felt safe letting someone in. With him I wasn't fragile, I was whole. 2 years after I'd arrived in Philly, Henry pulled me aside. I'm expanding the company, sustainable shipping, green tech. I want you to run it with me. Partner, not employee. You've got the VY shown for it. I blinked, stunned. Henry, I don't have the credentials. You've got the guts, he cut in. And the brains. I've seen you turn chaos into order. Say yes, Laura. I did. Carter Va Grayson Logistics was born, a name Henry insisted on. A nod to my role in its creation. We focused on eco-friendly transport, partnering with local startups and nonprofits. The work was brutal, late nights, endless pitches, setbacks that tested my resolve, but it mattered. I mattered. Sam stood by me through it all, his steady presence a balm to my lingering scars. We moved in together, a loft in Northern Liberties with skylights and mismatched furniture. He proposed on a snowy night, down on one knee in Rittenhouse Square, his breath fogging in the cold. I said yes, tears freezing on my cheeks, and we married in a quiet ceremony at City Hall, just us and a handful of friends. The company grew and so did I. Articles called me a rising star in sustainable business, a title that felt surreal. I hired a team, leased a bigger office, watched our VY Shown take root. But the past wasn't done with me yet. One gray afternoon, a letter arrived at the office, the handwriting unmistakably my mother's. My hand shook as I opened it. Laura, it's been years. I've made mistakes, terrible ones. I'm sorry for the pain I caused, for not seeing you. You've built something incredible, and I'd like to be part of your life again. Please, can we talk? I miss you, Mom. I sat there, the paper trembling in my grip. Part of me wanted to burn it, to keep running. But another part, the part Sam had helped me find, knew I couldn't heal without facing her. I met her at a cafe near Penn's Landing, the river churning under a cloudy sky. She looked smaller, her hair fully gray, her hands fidgeting with her scarf. Laura, she started, her voice breaking. I was wrong. About everything. You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for. I listened, my throat tight. I needed you to believe in me, I said finally. But you didn't. And I had to figure out how to believe in myself. I know, she whispered, tears welling. I favored Claire because I thought she needed me less. I didn't see how much I was hurting you. I didn't forgive her right away, not fully. But I didn't walk away either. We talked haltingly about the years apart. She'd left Claire and Daniel after their affair imploded, leaving alone now, grappling with regret. Claire had moved west, chasing a new job, and Daniel was a ghost, irrelevant to me now. The one-year anniversary of Carter v. Grayson loomed. A gala at a sleek venue in Center City. I invited my mother, not for revenge, but closure. Claire and Daniel came too, uninvited, tagging along like shadows. I wore a deep red dress, my hair swept up, Sam beside me in a tailored suit. The room buzzed with investors, clients, and press, our success on full display. When they arrived, the air shifted. My mother's eyes widened at the scale of it all. Claire's smile faltered, and Daniel couldn't meet my gaze. I greeted them coolly. Thanks for coming. This is my husband, Sam, I said, my voice clear. And this is our company. Their silence was deafening. My mother stammered a congratulations. Claire muttered something vague, and Daniel just stared, shame etched into his features. I didn't linger, I had guests to charm. A future to celebrate. Later my mother pulled me aside. You really did this, she said, awe and guilt warring in her voice. I was so wrong about you. Yes, I replied, steady. You were. But I didn't need you to be right. She nodded, tears spilling, and I let her hug me, a tentative step, not a full return. Claire and Daniel faded into the crowd, their presence a footnote. The night ended with Sam's arm around me, the city glittering below, and a peace I'd fought for. Years later, Carter v. Grayson thrived, a leader in green logistics. Sam and I had a daughter, Lily, her laughter filling our home. My mother VY cited sometimes, our bond fragile but growing. Claire and Daniel were distant memories. Their choices no longer my burden. I stood on our balcony one evening, Lily asleep inside, Sam beside me. The city stretched out, a testament to what I'd built. You ever think about them? He asked, his voice soft. Sometimes, I admitted. But not like before. They don't define me anymore. He squeezed my hand. You define you. And he was right. I wasn't fragile, not weak. I was Laura Grayson, wife, mother, entrepreneur, survivor. The wounds of the past had shaped me, but they didn't own me. I'd found my freedom, my truth, and that was enough.